blame is what this definition says: holding someone responsible for doing something badly or wrongly, saying that someone is responsible for something, whether they are indeed responsible or capable of making changes. Sometimes we are, sometimes we're blamed, and we need to say, yes, I am responsible for that. But why do people blame, particularly unrealistically, out of the box of holding accountable? And here are some reasons. Communication styles. Now, many people have a very assertive communication style. This guy's got kind of a humorous communication style, and this gal isn't really receiving it, or she's going to get annoyed if he continues with that communication style, and maybe blame him for interrupting a pleasant evening out. Often our values are perceived as violated. So I had a discussion years ago with somebody who wanted me to fire somebody. And this person said, don't you value excellence? And I said, I value excellence, but I value even more human dignity. And the way you are suggesting I handle this situation is shaming and blaming. And I allowed the employee to write a letter of resignation, and I helped her with it, and I explained why we needed to have this person exit from the position. So two values were colliding together in that meeting. Beliefs are perceived as violated or challenged. People can get triggered about their faith if we start to do certain things. Maybe we're very innocent of knowing about them. I can remember turning up at an Indigenous celebration, and I was wearing heeled shoes, and one of the people was feeling offended and said, you don't need to be elevating yourself off the earth. I felt blame, but it was just her tone. That sometimes tone can have a sense of blame in it, and I didn't know, and I learned a lot about moccasins and planting our feet on the earth. Personalities clash. Oh, this happens over and over again. The person who's naturally messy compared to the person who's naturally a neat freak. The optimist compared to the pessimist. The introvert compared to the extrovert. I mean, the dog is so extroverted and wants to be playful and have interaction, and the cat wants quiet time. This is my husband and me oftentimes. So personalities can end up creating an agitation that pops out as blame. Goals and priorities are perceived as being sabotaged. Somebody may be working very, very hard at a goal, and all of a sudden somebody says, oh, we've cut the funding for that, or that's no longer on the table. And then people's feelings get agitated. Might be an injustice or unfairness is perceived, and of course we're seeing this on the news regularly with the whole Palestinian-Israel conflict. Influence or control is perceived as less than. So I may perceive that somebody has more power and control than me, and I want to make a decision. Now, this can happen in the home, in the office, it can happen anywhere. I want the piece of wood that's got too much wood in our house. I want it painted a pretty blue. And who's gonna have the power and control to decide whether it gets painted or not? I'm actually seeing two women right now whose husbands do not let them have any control or power over finances. Can you imagine lining up at the bay and having your husband put the bra on the counter and pay for it because the woman does not have any power control over finances? So that's some of these perceptions are real. Unresolved resentments, issues, or trauma surface. Often people blame out of a frustration that bubbles up that's got nothing to do with you. It often has to do with dysfunctional patterns of thinking that got established long ago from traumatic events. One of my classics is I had a father who created childhood or complex trauma for me by repeatedly calling me stupid. Then I'm a family counselor and my manager gives me back a report and says, Patricia, there's a couple errors in here, please correct them. And I hear, you're stupid. And I end up going into a defensive mode. So I feel blamed where it's not really being blamed. So we have to watch the dynamics. High stress overflows. When people are in high distress, their prefrontal cortex, their logical thinking, is not intact, and so they often behave poorly. And cultural backgrounds clash. Again, we're seeing this on the news regularly. And empathy for others is low. And there tends to be a sense of being bullied, or bullying actually happens in the framework of being blamed or being held responsible for aspects of our lives that we can't change. By the way, a good test for blame, bullying, criticizing is, does the person that you're blaming, criticizing, bullying have the power and control to change the circumstances? So if somebody is bullied, for example, because they have a hair lip, or because they're a different color of skin, or because they're shorter, or because they're geekier, or they have buck teeth, whatever it is it something that they can change? Not fair, and it is bullying and unrealistic. Blame. So basically we're saying the blame game ends in more pain. So you and I might get triggered by the blame, and then we're in pain.